Welcome to the Effects Loop. I'm Scott.
I'm Brian.
And we're keeping you in the loop with the guitar community. We're not going to talk about this, so Philip's happy. That's what
Yeah.
he gets mad when we talk about the
Oh, do you keep a space open for the music?
No.
Okay. I was like, I don't know.
Pro Tools. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, we can slide the region over, dude.
I intentionally delete the silence and then put our vocals on top of the theme music just to piss Philip off. So.
Don't talk over the music, dude.
All right, this episode's brought to you by our Patreons, featuring new Patreon tiers. I don't know if we've talked about this. We were revising it, and we realized we needed to give some new benefits, and so we've changed them around. And so I'm a little mad Diaz isn't here to help introduce some of these. But for as low as $1 a month, you can help support the show, keep our costs down, things like hosting fees, all the website junk. Believe it or not, podcasts actually cost money to just publish. You have to have distribution and all that kind of fun stuff. So any money there helps keep the show afloat and keeps it from, being a cost on us to do. So we appreciate every level of support. But at $1 a month, you can come in at our we call it the Little Loopers program. Brian, you're a little looper, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Where you will get a shout out on an episode when you do sign up. So Brian, that counts as your one. And and you get early access to our episodes, and you get access to our Patreon episodes that we've started recording. And so only through the Patreon app do you get that. You get a special feed, and you get, like, when we record on a Saturday or Monday and I edit it, you get the episode right away, right off the bat. You can, at $3, you can jump to the Scott's Tots level, where whenever we do
You can make the dreams come true.
Yeah. That adds the stickers when we do runs of stickers, and our mini merch packets will throw you in on those. And so we do have stickers. Whoever signed up for that has gotten that. You also get all the previous benefits at the chat room level at $5 a month. You join the secret group chat where you actually help shape the show. Generally, half our opinions that we share on the show are from the group chat, where, like, I post a news article of, hey, this is cool. And then, Jason Fuzzmonger corrects me on something. And then I get to act educated when I actually come on air.
That is, in fact, not cool.
Yeah. Or moreover, you get to constantly learn about what Willie Hugh is flipping at that any given point, those kind of things. So it's actually a pretty fun tier. At the God Bless America tier at $10 a month, Diaz will write you a handwritten letter.
Snail mail it out.
Yeah. And then we have also introduced at Diaz's behest the Friends with Benefits tier at $20 a month. I will just give you Diaz's phone number, and you can FaceTime him whenever you want.
There you go.
No one signed up for it yet, but it's there. So go to patreon.com/theeffectsloop, sign up for whatever tier you want, and enjoy those kind of extra benefits. So
I like it.
Brian, it's been a year since I've had you on the show. It's been a while, man.
I think so. Yeah, it's been. I think it was it your buddy Ian I was on with? I think.
Really?
I can't remember how long. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've been on the show, and I keep saying, like, we need to have you and Diaz on our show. So yeah, you're keeping your end of the bargain up. I gotta get you on ours. But I guess for those not in the know, I'm from the podcast, the Tone Jerks podcast. So Scott has been on. It was a couple years ago, and definitely picking his brain about all the acoustic audio engineering stuff.
Sure, that's what I do.
You're like, well, some of those are. Yep, that's correct.
Those are words. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, that was a really fun episode, and every time I come on here, it's good to just riff. Like, I think we riffed for like over an hour, just like back and forth, just like catching up. I'm like, oh yeah,
yeah. And if you join our Patreon feed, you get to hear that.
And it's like actual gear talk. I'm like, wow, I talk more about gear on this podcast than on my own.
I mean, we have our little universe of associated guitar podcasts, and all of us kind of don't step on each other for the most part. And so it's kind of fun when you hop on somebody else's format, because you get so used to what you do. So, like, ours is the news thing. And so you watch, like, we just had Steve Rao on, and even though his podcast is way bigger than ours, he likes this format. So he wants to hop into the discussion, and we're glad to have him whenever he comes on. whenever he wants to. And like same thing with like Blake is the interview format. Whenever he comes on, he gets to talk here. And so like I going into your more riff focused kind of focused is in air quotes here.
It's usually just like, oh, what about this? Have you thought about that? What if that happened, huh?
Yeah. Have you tried this game on the Switch yet? Have you tried this?
which I want to get into, but you say that, and I recently on our show I've kind of been stepping on your guys' toes. I've been trying to bring some news into it.
I know.
Our show.
Yeah, except for you tried to Johnny Carson your way through all of them.
That's all. Yeah, I don't even talk about it. So
Fulltone's in the news. Have you heard about this? Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
Yeah. Hey folks.
You should start doing top 10 lists.
Yeah.
That would piss DS off too, because he wants to read the lists.
Yeah, top 10 list. I like that.
All right.
But yeah, just kind of talk show host my way out into the news.
Yeah.
And just like never touch on it. It's like, so what about that?
I remember hearing that episode. I was about to send you a GIF of like Stewie breaking Brian's legs in Family Guy.
Just like, you're stealing our fucking bits. What is it like? The old Simpsons episode where it's like Moe was a little rascal. He killed the original Alfalfa because he's just like, yeah, my bit on the show was I would always stick my head or my eye in a tailpipe and get soot in my face. And then Alfalfa did it. He's like, you stole my bit. And Mo is just a kid just beating his Alfalfa. It's like, oh no, you killed the original Alfalfa.
Oh man.
Anyways.
That's been actually, thank you Disney Plus for having all the Simpsons episodes. I've actually been going back into them once in a while too.
But I think it really picked up their stride in season 3.
Through about
3 through
9, 8 or 9, yeah. Also,
it's the only one's worth watching, I think.
South Park had about the same thing.
I heard that show's pretty good still. I definitely want to.
I mean, I still watch South Park. I don't watch Simpsons anymore.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, okay. I was gonna ask, like, is it still hold up? I remember loving the hell out of it, but also I was like a child when I first started watching it. I was as old as the kids were in that show, so I was like 8 or 9. When I started watching it, and I'm like, my parents, I'm like, you shouldn't have let me watch that show.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember when I fell out of it, but yeah, I heard, I think like 20 years or something like that. But
so long.
That's why I'm like, I feel like I want to jump back in. But
well, you know what we should jump into a little bit of?
Yes.
What's new with you?
What's new with me? Let's see. So today got a haircut, looking sharp. But my barbershop is pretty close to Guitar Center here in San Diego. So
that's a dangerous haircut.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, of course you're going to just stop by. Of course you're going to stop by, right? Mm-hmm. And, I'm not really looking for more guitars or anything like that. But I'm like, oh, you can get accessories. Like that's usually what a Guitar Center is for, is strings, picks, and then I was in need or in want of a new strap to match my bass. I know you're not video, but so it's very yellow blue bass that I have, and I wanted a strap to match. So I had an Ernie Ball black one, like just like the normal poly strap or whatever. But I love these Ernie Ball jacquard ones, which it's the same poly strap.
It's a very old carpet kind of vibe.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
And the colors, like this is how simple.
It matches your knobs.
How simple I am. Yep. The blues match the knobs, and then the gold kind of matches the guitar. I'm like, okay, am I going to do any other clashes or whatever? And then, got some blue on the back there. Got some anime stickers here. Of course, obviously.
Of course.
But yeah, so I'm like, oh, new strap for the bass. And, being Ernie Ball, they're not super expensive. They're like $15, I think, for the jacquard ones. So like
yeah, they're cheap still. And
I have never had a problem with Ernie Ball straps. I know I've seen them. I don't know if you've ever seen where people are like, oh yeah, no, they just stretch out to like, I don't know if this is a bad visual, but this is what first came to my mind. Do you ever see people who had the big old ear gauges?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
They take them out.
Oh,
that's what the strap looks like at the It's all stretched out. I'm like, how did you do that to your strap?
It just looks like calamari just hanging off somebody's ear.
But imagine that, but on a strap. So like the leather or whatever part that attaches to the strap button, that's how stretched out they were. I'm like, what do you do with this thing?
I just have always used strap locks, so I've never really stretched out anything.
But I guess essentially they would do the same thing, like because
it could, like the pressure could, but like because strap locks have the two washers that like
sandwich it
and kind of distribute the force. I've never stretched out anything.
Yeah. Oh, and the other ones that I have are all, I use the normal strap button, I put a washer on it, and then I duct tape it. So I've never had a problem with that. So maybe that's because I either do the proper.
Well, you're also not taking it on and off constantly, and that's probably what's really actually stretching them out.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Going over the strap pin part of it, like the bigger part, is probably what's causing all the problems.
Yeah, once you set it and forget it, essentially is kind of what I do with all my Ernie Ball straps. I do love the idea of getting some like nicer ones because I was contemplating getting couch straps or something cool, but I'm like those rug carpet looking Ernie Balls, I love them. Either solid colors because I have like purple one for my purple Equits, and then I have like a red one for my red Strat. I'm a white one for my white guitar. I'm keeping it pretty simple, but the jacquard ones too for my fancier guitars. My jazz bass, I got a jacquard one on there because it's my fancier one. No duct tape on that boy.
Hey man, sometimes you just gotta treat yourself.
Oh yeah, pinky up when you play that bass.
Yeah.
It's like this one's pretty nice. I'm like, yep, it's American.
I don't know if you saw it. It's an Ernie Ball.
Yeah. Yeah, or the double L, Baye, double L. Yeah. So went there. I mean, that was kind of pretty much all I went there for. It's just a new strap. And then there was a guy that I spotted, and this is kind of where. So there's a podcast that I listen to that's local to San Diego. They're not music, but some of the guys are in music, whatever. They're a comedy podcast. They're called the Tasteless Gentlemen. And I listen to them. I watch them on YouTube, and I'm like, "Oh, these guys are hilarious. They're funny." And I'm like, "Oh, and they're in San Diego." So a lot of the times when they tell stories, I'm like, "I know where that is. I know that restaurant or that bar, yada yada." And one of the guys is a DJ that's his job. You go to like a club, and he's like,
"Oh, that kind of DJ." I was like thinking like radio DJ, and then I'm like, "Why does he have a podcast?" Because that's pretty much what he does already.
No, he's like a DJ, like wicka kind of thing.
Okay.
I don't know him from the DJ thing, but I saw him at Guitar Center, and I've, never met the guy, but I'm like actually a fan of the podcast, and like it just happens to be that we're in the same city. And I was gonna talk to him, but he was definitely looking at like speakers and shit like that. And then he ended up talking to a sales associate, and I'm like, can I be that guy just to butt in there and just say like, hey man, I'm a fan of your podcast. And I thought about it, and I did think about it a couple times. I'm like, let me just go get my fucking strap. And I saw him leave. I'm like, I'm not gonna follow him. I'm not gonna be that guy. But at the moment, that was like, and I've talked to him before. Like they're super nice. Like they're pretty good sized podcasts and stuff like that. But I was like, I've talked to him on Instagram and talked to a couple of the guys, and they're all super nice. They're all like super stoked people listen. They're like, even say on the show, it's like, yeah, when I'm at the club DJing, don't fucking come up to the booth. Don't ever talk, like you're enemy if you come up and start yelling at me. It's like,
well, I mean, a DJ at a club hates everyone because everyone thinks they know what the next song that should be played is.
Yeah,
and that guy has literally one job, and that is to determine what the next song to be played is.
And then he's also even said, it's like, yeah, but if you're a fan of the podcast, come up. Like I might even just say hi. I'm like, I love that. I love meeting like fans of the podcast. But if I'm at a club and I'm DJing, don't come up to me. Like I don't want to shake your hand. I don't want to da-da-da-da-da. But if you're a fan of the podcast, I'll fucking probably give you a hug. And so it's kind of funny. And I was like, no, I'm not going to bug him. He's probably out there trying to buy something for his rig. And I'm all like, hey, dude, I'm bothering you. And so that was my one story. I'm like, if I ever see him again, maybe I'll hit him up.
Nice.
So other than that, got the strap. Got, almost said hi to somebody, and then I just like pussied out. That's my thing too.
I just realized that was a 10-minute story of I almost said hi to somebody. That is the entirety.
I just bitched out. I've had people who come up to me, or like back, when we were really banging with the band and say hi to me and say, "Oh, I know you guys, know your band." Da, da, da. And I'm like, I love that. I'm like, hell yeah. And even when they see me at my shit job, I'm like, they like, I know you. Oh my god, I saw you guys play. I'm like, this is what you do? I'm like, yeah. The band doesn't make me money. I'm here at the fucking mall.
Don't you love those like I'm a mini celebrity moment that you could either totally douchebag out and let it totally go to your head for a minute, or you're just like, no, I'm just a dude, man. Like chill. Like,
yeah. I'm sure people get that with like YouTube or whatever when they maybe go somewhere. Especially like YouTubers that go to like NAMM or whatever. And
I mean, like that's the classic. I mean, so our group of friends, Ryan is clearly the most famous out of all of us. Mm-hmm. People know Blake's voice, but they didn't really know his face for the longest time. Like some of those kind of things. And so like you go around the booths and everyone's like, "Oh, hey Ryan, here," and I'm just sitting there like, "I'm here too, thanks." How you doing?
I've had that. It was cool. Like I don't know, the Guitar Geek Andy.
Yeah.
Like I was at Nutter and I was kind of talking with Brian Nutter. And then I actually shake, I'm like Andy's hand. I'm like, oh, hey, I actually watch your YouTube channel. Like it's cool. Mm-hmm. And he's been on a couple other podcasts and and he's like, oh no, I know you, Brian. Like, I know the Tone Jerks. I follow you guys. I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. And he's a bigger YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, we so Philip Carter was in town this weekend, and we were in Rock and Roll Vintage. And it was also the Fretboard Journal's Summit in Chicago this weekend. So like everyone was going through all the guitar stores, like everyone. So actually Rhett Shull was at CME at the same time I was.
Oh shit.
And I watched his video where he was at CME and I'm like, am I there? Am I in the background? Where am I?
You're the guy who's in the background staring at the camera. It's like, bro.
No, I mean, if anything, like coming up on a story later, there would have been one or two guitars we would have handed him. Be like, what do you think, man?
Yeah.
Rat, you gotta try this. But like,
you're trying to be conspicuous, and you're like Kilroy with like leaning over the fence of like, oh, what's up?
Well, it's funny because like I've bumped into Rhett Shull a few times now, and I still want to do that. All right, which one of us is taller? Like, I just want to figure that out once and for all.
Back to back, that'd be a great little like video.
Yeah, because like I've done that to Josh Scott, and Josh Scott is like an inch taller than me. But
damn.
Yeah. But so I'm not the tallest guy in the world.
But it's also like, who's got a better post game? you go like, I'll just fucking dunk on his ass. You don't want to be in the paint with me, dude.
I don't think I can dunk anymore. I think I'm too fat.
You're like, I'm not having your shit out there, Josh.
Yeah. Well, I was playing volleyball in college. I could dunk. I don't think I can anymore. But
you just start intimidating. You should just next NAMM just go wearing like a full like,
just
basketball,
just
like
chest to chest. Don't say anything. Just
no, you got to dress up like you're ready to just hit the court. You just need to bring a basketball and just have someone.
I could be a People of NAMM. I just show up in a Lakers, like the full Lakers outfit, like or what's Will Ferrell's movie? Where he's the basketball player, Jackie Moon.
I can't remember, but I think you should go like early 2000s, like really baggy fit, everything, and you're just like. Get the Nelly like bandage on your eye too, just like just really be into it.
Yeah,
excessive sweatbands everywhere.
Yeah, but yeah, so we were going through. A riff. When we were at Rock and Roll Vintage, and the guy's like, "How do I know you guys?" And we're like, "I have a podcast," and he's like, "Maybe." Like, it was one of those kind of. I was almost recognized, almost. Yeah. But yeah, he thought I was a pedal builder based on how like Philip and I were going through this stack of just pedals, and I was like, "Oh, dude, they have a Nosferatu. Have you seen one of these before?" Like, we were doing that kind of nerd thing. But
nerding out over pedals. I'm like, he must build them.
Yeah, that's what he thought. But yeah, they pulled out a whole crate of a milk crate, and it was the complete Love Tone line. That some guy just plugged in, and then he's like, "Oh, you want to see something else cool?" And he goes in the back, comes out with the biggest pedal train hard shell case I've ever seen. Inside is a pedal train Terra.
Yeah, those guys.
Like the same size, and it's the complete old Mutron line, like giant Mutrons.
That's really cool.
So this is like my new favorite store in Chicago is this Rock and Roll Vintage. It's like way the hell north, kind of off the beaten path, but it's like stuff they're just dripping with stuff, and I'm still thinking about going back and buying something there.
Those old Mutrons, the ones that have the power cable attached to it, right? Those are really cool. I have sworn that my favorite phaser, I've already called it. It's the easiest one. It's the Phase 90 MXR. Whatever the block one, the cheapest one. I'm like, that's my sound. That's my phaser. Yeah, that's all I need. And nothing else has really like done it for me. And then our buddy, friend of my show, Johnny Ray, Johnny Two Guns, he let me borrow one of those original Mutron phasors.
Oh yeah, with an O.
And yeah, I'm like, this is so fun, so expensive, so ungiggable. But I'm like, this is
But
this
I must
is it.
have it. I must.
This
have
is
it.
like the sound. I'm like, I love the sound. I'm like, I can talk myself out of it, but I'm like, wow. Of course, like my sound is like the cheap, basic bro kind of phaser, or something super old and like, unobtainium kind of thing. I'm like, of course, that'd be like, yeah. If I was gonna get another phaser, that'd be the one I'd get.
Don't you love like you build out your pedal board with all the cheap crap? Like you're just trying to have all of it, and then you're like, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I need an original Klon now. Like, I must replace it. Everyone, like, because that is like, at least for me, I built out the board and then I slowly started swapping in the good versions.
Yeah,
and
I think
particularly with drives, that can be drives and fuzzes. That can be an endless journey. But yeah,
that's one thing too that is such a major characteristic of a rig is the drive dirt section.
Oh yeah.
I'm more of an overdrive guy. I'm not as much fuzz, but I know people are really into their fuzz pedals. And so with both of those, you can go, the range can be super cheap or very expensive, and you get to like find, okay, what is comparable, what's good sound. And I know, shout him out again, but I know Ryan from 60 Cycle does like the cheap, affordable pedals or whatever. Which is a great way for people to get into finding a sound. And then normally once you find what you kind of like, you're like, oh, I can buy these. They're like Amazon, $30 or whatever. You're like, okay, this is a sound that I like, but it's not quite doing it for me. So,
or
you can get the better version.
Or you can be that guy who needs to post constantly like diatribes about like, well, I got it at 25. You guys are just buying the brand at that point. And again, I'm like, no, they actually sound different, bro. Like it's cool, but like have fun. Like I'm sorry you can't afford it yet, or you're just not there. Like give it time. You're on the journey, man. No one's looking down on you.
Yeah, it's like people like kind of like talk themselves into the gear that they have. It's like, no, this is good. I like it. I mean, like you're only trying to convince yourself at this point.
Yeah. There's the recency bias person who's like, whatever's new is what I have to be in. We call that Gear Talk, Praise, and Worship. And
yes, I snuck my way into that group on Facebook. I love lurking. I'm always lurking.
It's a fun group to watch as long as you don't try to participate. Oh
yeah, no, I just watch and I'm like, because I've been a long time Fractal fanboy, for several years now. And I'm like, and I'm like, wait, they're into fractals now? Like, no, this was a metal thing. This was like, studio guy, metal guy. And then now they're like, this is the best sound in the world. It sounds like a real amp. It's nothing else compares. Get the FM3. I'm like, oh, I have an Axe 8. Get the FM3. I'm like, oh, I like the Axe 8. Get the FM3. I'm like, okay. Guess what? Sold this. Got the U audio. I'm like, of course. There's something new and shiny. I'm surprised they haven't jumped on. I'm
guilty of this, but like that's because I like new stuff too. But
I don't say to like, you didn't sell your Kemper. I can see it in the background, and then I know you're running Quad Cortex, which I'm surprised that hasn't taken off. That's
Quad Cortex? No, because you just couldn't buy
the newest
one.
Thing. Okay,
they've been back ordered for months. They've been back ordered the entire time. So like they're coming up. There's a Quad Cortex Praise and Worship group.
Oh, okay. Scott's calling it. That's going to be the next wave. Is a Quad Cortex in Praise and Worship. I think so too.
I honestly, I've been to so many shows recently where it's Quad Cortexes. I mean, bear in mind, I saw Polyphia where he's a neural artist, but the opener even was all quad cortexes, every single person. So
Yeah.
because it's this, and you just show up,
Mhm.
and most of the metal bands and prog stuff, you run it off MIDI clicks anyway. So like,
Yeah,
you
you
never
can
need to touch the
change
dang
your
thing.
yeah. And I think everybody. I mean, every gear is pretty much comparable. Like I know I was in that praise and worship. I've been in that praise and worship group for a while, and everybody was singing the praise of HX Stomp. This is it. This is it. This is the one. HX Stomp, the Helix line. Why would you get anything else? Fractal FM3. That's the best one. Helix, get out of here.
I mean,
okay.
For a long time, the HX Stomp was one of the best value guitar pedals you could buy. From
I think it still is.
$1 per feature. If you're not going to hold your nose at some of like the Hotone stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess I haven't tried that.
Sorry, Hot Tone.
Hot one.
Hot one.
I've heard it all. I'm like, I don't know how it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So
anyways,
wrapping up my what's new. Yeah, Philip was
I was
in town.
we're gonna say
we're
like,
probably gonna do a podcast. He's driving right now, still back home to Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 10 plus hours of a drive. So, but him and I will probably be doing a collab episode here, just kind of talking about all the fun things we did between guitar stores and concerts we went to and seeing Chicago and some of those kind of fun things. So it was a good time.
Yeah, it's rad.
And in the process, I bought a guitar. Well, moving on.
You're not gonna mention the guitar?
I bought a Martin D28.
Yeah, which is like one of like the acoustics.
Yeah, I went end game.
Yeah.
I was in a store. I was at CME with some buddies, and a buddy was buying a guitar that I picked out for him. And I'm looking at acoustics. I've been kind of curious about like a Gibson Hummingbird. I'm more of a strummer because I have a Grand Auditorium, which is a great finger picker, but it just doesn't strum very well. And I'm actually playing acoustic a lot more lately than I have in the past. This is me buying.
Gotta justify it. Yeah.
This is me buying a $3,000 guitar for the 3 times I'll play it at church. Kind of a stupid justification. No, I was walking through and I was off looking at stuff, and they pulled one up from the shop. So like they actually opened the box and pulled it out of the case. And my buddy just yells Scott from across the store. Yeah. And I turn around and out of my mouth is just expletive. It's a burst.
Yeah.
Like I had no control of myself. I'm like, crap, I'm buying that. I didn't even touch it yet. You don't see burst Martins. Like when you see a non-plain Martin, pay attention. Like special colors, stuff like they're just so rare and so hard to find. And also it's a 28, but it also has special binding all over it. So it's not plain binding. So you don't have to go to the HD where you get the herringbone stuff. Yeah. It's not herringbone, but it does have some like multiply binding. So it's just this gorgeous guitar.
It's got some stank on it. Yeah,
it does. So
that's very, very cool.
So I went home and grabbed all the guitars I was selling and brought them in, traded them in, and now I have a guitar.
Yeah.
So I went down a guitar net, which is nice.
Yeah. What'd you trade for it? Or
my Revolta and an SG.
Oh, your Revolta. You weren't getting on with that, or
that already got replaced.
Gotcha.
By another P90 guitar with a Duesenberg trem on it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Might as well if you're gonna
that
have
guitar's dead to me now that I have an Equitz. Like
if you have the Equitz, yeah. And yeah, Kevin really knocked it out with that guitar.
It's
a beautiful looking guitar.
It's a world better guitar. So
I really like that. It's like not to you and I have already bought them, but I really like and it's not like Kevin's like we need to blow more smoke, but I'm like I love what he's doing. We're 2 completely different players, completely different styles, and he has built 2 guitars that really suit us. And I love my Rayburn, and it's a 1 pickup, 1 volume, on-off switch with an Evertune guitar. It is,
and you were the first Evertune he ever did. I was the first Duesenberg he ever did.
Yeah.
So,
and he knocked it out. He was like, all right. So, I think it was an old Gear Slum episode. And he's like, oh yeah, all you need to build the guitars is like time, templates, and tools. And I think Phil was like, so not technique? He's like, no, I mean, I guess that helps. It's just how humble he is. I'm like, he's just like an Evertune. He's like, all right, I'll look up the schematics and figure that out and cut it in there. I saw pictures of him building mine, so it's like you have to like round it out and hollow and fit the thing in there, and I'm like, all right, he was able to figure it out.
Well, on top of that, he is such of this mind where he's just like, yeah, I'll just use chisels.
Yeah.
Why not,
Yeah, and that is my favorite guitar, and I have a lot of redundancy in my guitars because I have like 3 other one pickup guitars, humbuckers, and I'm like, well, they're not getting played as much as the Equits. And then the thing is, they're all destroyed, so I couldn't sell them. Nobody would buy them. So
there's a little bit of that. I mean, I have one redundant. I have multiple redundant guitars at this point, but I try to make sure like I just get the best version of what I'm looking for at this point that scratches an itch. And so I love going through all the different ones I have, because like I have Les Paul, I have a Jazzmaster, I have Strats, I have a Telecaster, I have hollow body guitars. Like, it's eclectic now, and it's fun.
Which is how you'd want to do it. You want each one to stand out and have its own voice.
There's dudes who want 20 Les Pauls.
Yeah, that's cool.
There's those people who buy 30 Firefly Les Paul copies. Like, good for you.
Yeah, so you can have them, and more is better.
Yeah.
More better.
Some people really limit themselves by creating a brand off a single type of guitar, like say a Telecaster, and talking about it. Really write themselves into a corner there. But whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm stoked for you. It's like
it's been wonderful.
Started the call. You were playing. I'm just playing. I'm like, what guitar? I'm like, just a D28. I'm like, that's like the guitar. For acoustics,
I was shopping for a different the guitar.
Yeah. No, that's rad. I'm stoked for you.
I need people to understand that I did not drop very much money on this, actually. After all the trade-ins I did, it really didn't hit my wallet that hard. So
no, and that's rad too.
Which is annoying, because that became impulse decision territory. Where I'm like,
right. I can justify that.
I looked at my checking account and was like, God, there's too much money there. I'm going to make a bad decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So let's dive into some quick news, I think, because we are going to gab too much. So
I was going to say, we're like another what's new probably for both of us, or what's been going on. Breath of the Wild, dude. I've been loving that game.
Yeah, man.
On Switch, I got that, and I have been just docking the hours. I got like 110 hours or whatever.
Wait till you start trying to do the Trial of the Sword. Oh,
I need to start that. I was like, I saw a video on it, and I'm like, how do I get that going?
Have you bought the expansion?
No, I don't have the expansion.
Okay,
you have to have it.
You have to have the expansion for that. But like, just burn through the whole game, and once you beat Ganon, then go do the expansion, because the expansion doesn't really add to like the game, other than that stupid motorcycle thing.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no. Actually, go do the expansion, because you want to get the ancient horse saddle.
Okay.
Because then you can just hit the whistle, and your horse just shows up anywhere.
Oh, that's right.
You don't have to do the stupid sable stuff.
I love that we're talking about a game that's like 5 years old. And I'm just now experiencing it. I'm like, this is so sick.
Well, also, I only play Switch when I'm traveling.
Yeah.
That was I bought it in like May or whatever, because I was doing a work trip, and I was like, I got it. It was a data center where I had to do like testing over like with a 3-day gap in between it. So I'm just like in Carolina, middle nowhere Carolina. And I was like, I'm working from my hotel room, and that's it. Like, this sucks. Like, I need something to do that doesn't involve going to a bar.
Yeah, just drinking all day.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, I'm gonna do this, and we'll fucking play Legend of Zelda. I'm like, man. Yeah. So I've been just kind of doing that. I have been trying to keep that at bay, as to not just like
it's so easy to just get lost. Crap like I'm going to collect 100 carrots. Like, yeah.
I love it that you're like, I'm gonna pick up everything, because I'm like, I may need that. I'm like, do I need like 200 apples? Maybe.
Yeah, when you need 50, that one thing where you need 50 rush rooms. Oh, brutal.
Yeah, and then I took that, and I'm like, well, challenge accepted. Let's go.
And then you turn the Seeker slate on, and you're just like walking everywhere, be like, it beeped. Where's it coming from?
Yeah.
Damn.
But I'm like, yeah, that's for me. I'm like, I've been ongoing that, and I've been talking to a couple friends, and they're all like, man, that's one of the best games, dude.
It is. It just needed to have training wheels for a little bit longer at the beginning of it.
Well, yeah, at some parts, I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of YouTube video it. I'm like, how do I get out of here?
How do I get these dragon parts? Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was like, I've been talking with a buddy Andrew Walsh about it. He's like, yes, it's good. And then even a coworker of mine, we don't relate, or we don't talk a lot of other things outside of work. And I'm like, so you like Zelda, right? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, Breath of the Wild, dude. I've been getting into it. And he's like, he opened up. He's like, oh my god, I love that game. We just started like talking about it. I'm like, so now he checks. I'm like, how's Breath of the Wild going? I'm like, it's sick.
Well, there's that. Like, I finished the initial story, and then I was like, all right, well, I've never played Majora's Mask, and that's on the online thing. So I started playing Majora's Mask, and I was like, nah, Breath of the Wild has spoiled me. I'm going back to Breath of the Wild.
Well, yeah, that's why I started with that, and that's my first Zelda game. And I kind of hope that it doesn't spoil me for all the other ones, because I do want to play A Link to the Past, which is SNES. I want to play, was it Ocarina of Time?
Ocarina of Time I remember being very fun. I played that on 64 back in the day.
So yeah, I do want to go.
I played Twilight Princess in college, if I remember right, too, on the Wii.
Wii. Yeah, was that good?
I remember enjoying it. I was like a sophomore. Was I sophomore? I was a junior in college when I was playing that.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, with the Switch, or I guess I do have the expansion pass thing, or whatever it is, the online thing.
Yeah, but that's N64 stuff only, or NES stuff too. Oh yeah, Link to Past is on there.
SNES, yeah.
Yeah, I played it on Game Boy, like when I was a wee little kid.
Mm-hmm. So I've been like, okay, I want to finish Breath of the Wild, and then I want to jump back and like see if I can do SNES games after that. But anyways, I know you try not to make it a music podcast, but I was like, we had to talk about Breath of the Wild a little bit.
Well, let's just burn through some of this, because honestly, half of this is just rumors that's going on. There's not a lot of really cool news this week. I'll just be blunt with you.
Yeah.
But the topic will be fun, because everyone needs to talk about this topic.
Mm-hmm.
Muse's Matt Bellamy is allegedly working on a new fuzz pedal. He's saying that it will make more of the features accessible, and things he's talking about is what he's describing is basically a parametric EQ to make it a little more focused, which would be pretty dope, because I mean, Matt Bellamy is Mr. Fuzz Factory, so having something that can do his cool fuzz sounds that's a little more controllable, I'm in for it. And he's been killing it with that whole Manson Guitar Works, making some pretty affordable stuff. So
yeah, Fuzz Factory was always a fuzz pedal I wanted to try, but it's like it has so many knobs that it's
scary.
You can't. Yeah. And so like, all right, I'm already like not a huge fuzz guy anyways, but I'm like, is that gonna push me away further? So that's always scared me. But I do like the sounds that I hear people get out of them. Like a buddy of mine, he has one of them, and I'm like, plays pop punk, and I'm like, do you get use out of this thing, or is it he's like, not really. I like having it, but I don't really play it. Because he's like, I get video game sounds out of it sometimes, like 8-bit kind of, and I'm like, he's like, but nothing usable. I like having it though. He's like, but you should buy one.
It's like one of those home pedals where it's like, this will make weird stuff happen, but don't try to do this in front of people because you will embarrass yourself.
Yeah, it's like you're at home playing. I'm like, this sounds awesome. You get on stage, damn.
Another rumor that has actually been confirmed, it's coming out on Tuesday. Noel Gallagher is having his first official Gibson signature with an ES355. I can't really tell what's necessarily signature about it, but
yeah,
they have confirmed it's going to be 200 pieces and priced at $4,300.
Yeah, that's a good amount of money.
Oh, it's a spruce top instead of maple.
Oh,
and it's a hand rub finish instead of probably a spray on.
Oh, that's cool, right? I mean, what would I guess the characteristics of spruce over maple be? I
mean, it's a 355. The body wood doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I mean, I would think it would matter more than like a Strat, right?
Yeah,
Well,
I'm not the Tonewood doesn't matter at all kind of group of people. I'm also
yeah.
not a, oh, Rosewood has a darker tone than maple fretboards kind of a guy. So there's a healthy medium between those two.
I am definitely one of the people that think like it's snappier
Yeah.
for maple, fretboard. I don't think it matters that much, but for me, I'm like in my head, I'm like, yeah, I could believe that. So that's why I think sometimes like bodywoods, like that could change things, right?
Yeah.
I would assume it would matter way more on a hollow body as opposed to like a solid body guitar.
Yeah. Sure.
Because yeah, and then I would think too, right? Hollow bodies are going to sound, or semi-hollow bodies are going to sound different than
some of the sympathetic resonance that happens in the body of a guitar does find its way into the pickup, depending on the type of pickup. 100%. So, and it will also just affect the feel of the guitar while you're playing it, which will in turn affect how you play. So there's an impact. I'm not going to say there's nothing. But if this is what's been holding you back from buying a 355 was the maple top, but the spruce, like, come on, man.
And then, yeah.
And then I really need to sound like Noel Gallagher.
Yeah.
Like, no offense. I loved Oasis growing up, but his tone was nothing unique or special in my memory.
Yeah, to write home about.
And, I mean, it's funny because this is his first signature Gibson. And I'm like, he's had signature those were Epiphones. So, like, that's kind of like, like, he always had cheaper guitars. So, like, it's funny that he's playing a more expensive one now.
Mm-hmm. And then
so
I kind of look.
He's looking haggard these days, man.
Time will do that to somebody.
That launching photo that he posted of himself just looks like old man in tracksuit. Like, oof.
Yeah,
it's kind of Bixby.
He's that wonder wall really got to him. He hit a wonder wall. Boom, got him.
Oh yeah,
got his ass.
His solo project actually was pretty decent too. Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. He did an album too there. Pretty decent. I mean, like if you liked Oasis, it's Oasis again. Mm-hmm. But in all related news, Gibson Caesar. Gaikian? I can never remember how to pronounce his last name. The CEO or president of Gibson also teased that there's going to be a Noel Gallagher signature Epiphone Rivera.
Okay.
Which I don't really know. I mean, he again, I remember him with more of an Epiphone sound, but that's just whatever. And I think it's full-size humbuckers is one of the features on that one. But we'll see. We'll see what comes of that. So Noel Gallagher fans, rejoice. 2006 or 1996 has finally come about for you guys.
Yeah. the time has come.
Don't look back in anger. It's coming like a champagne supernova.
Yeah, there you go. I like it.
How many other Oasis hits can I drop into that?
I really only knew Wonderwall, and then you said the Supernova. I'm like, all right. Yeah.
So I have a friend who started a punk band, and they named themselves Definitely Maybe. And they at their first gig, I kept just shouting out Oasis songs at them to like mess with them.
Yeah.
And like at the end, I was like, man, that's the worst Oasis cover band I've ever heard.
They didn't play a damn song right. I want my money back.
It was a free gig. I didn't get moving on, and other guitars none of us are going to buy. Fender Japan has launched 3 new signature models for the J-Rock group Scandal. These are kind of cool, but they're going to be Japan only, which is kind of sad. So first being a dual humbucker Telecaster with a like flat white finish, but with silver binding. And it's got the Tune-o-matic style bridge. So it's kind of like a Troublemaker Telly in just a very like white finish. And it's got a matching headstock, and I absolutely love it. The other one is a Stratocaster that comes in. It's also a dual humbucker body mounted, so there's no pick guard, and 2-point trem, and it's got like kind of like a cream finish with a matching headstock. I'd forgive you if you looked at it and said that was an Ibanez AZ. Just looking,
Yeah,
or like a Charvel, like just passing it.
yeah, no, Charvel for sure.
And then the last one is they actually have a J bass that has J bass things. I don't know. It's orange.
Mm-hmm.
I can't recognize bass things. I'm not a bass guy. But it's cool because this is finally, I've loved to call out Fender on that dumb comment he made, one of their presidents made a long time ago, of saying we're going to have more female signature artists this year than our entire history, and that only required them to come out with 2 signature guitars. This is 3 female signature guitars all in a row.
I know you're not an anime fan, but the band Scandal has they have made opening songs that were used in like Full Metal Alchemist, and then also let's see, so that's a bigger one.
I should have connected that in your presence here, man. Like Mr. Anime himself just must have been.
So yeah, it's a lot of bands, and they can kind of like their songs will just blow up if they're like an opening or a closing of an anime. So we're like, if it slaps, you're like, I'm watching. Like, no, don't skip the opening credits on like Netflix or whatever. You want to skip them? Like, no, you better not, because they'll also make animations that go with the the song or whatever, so they can just like really go together. So sometimes like they'll pick a song and then use it for an opening, or they'll contract bands to be like, hey, can you make an opening for this anime coming out? So I don't know which way it was, but I just kind of checked out there. I'm like, okay, that band, Full Metal Alchemist, that's a big one. Bleach, big,
I was gonna say you've watched that one, haven't you?
Full Metal Alchemist, yeah, it's one of my favorites. So I'm like, I just had to remember which song they do. So anyways, little tidbit there.
Yeah. In other Fender news of other guitars no one that listens to the podcast is going to buy, I'm being salty here, but these are all like unavailable things. The Custom Shop has unveiled the limited edition Jerry Garcia Alligator Stratocaster from master builder Austin McNutt. I was going to say, that sounds like a Patreon supporter of yours.
McNutt.
It's got it's a Strat with a weird bridge in natural with stickers on it.
we went over that on our news segment on our podcast, and the only thing I was focused on is the guy's name, McNutt.
I heard it in my head. I'm like, he's going to say, please say it.
He can't not say it. I'm like, yeah, I don't know any Grateful Dead songs.
If I had to go get a new fake ID,
it would be McNutt. Yeah.
How much is this thing?
I don't know, too much.
$20,000.
Wait, doesn't it? I got to click on it again. Doesn't it have a sticker? Yeah, it's got stickers on it and shit. Yeah, it looks like it has like kind of like a Fender jazz bass. Has a metal plate for the control knobs. It's got that for the Strat. I'm like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah,
but $20,000. Who's gonna?
Grateful.
I feel like
fans.
This
is peak. Let's take advantage of boomers, and
Well, if you're a Grateful Dead fan, you're gonna want to buy drugs, right? Or
there's some very rich Grateful Dead fans. Some of those hippies really hit it big, man.
they like fell into money, and they're like, yeah, actually that worked out.
Well, it's like the funny one of I was watching Trial the Chicago 7, and one of the guys in there is like one of like the hippiest of the hippie guys.
Yeah, and
then I'm like, my parents are like, I still can't forget that was that guy, and I was like, what else did he do? And he's like, oh, he was one of the key investors in Apple. And I'm like, what?
It's like Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
He invested in some fruit company.
Yeah.
He said he don't have to work no more. We don't have to worry about. No, it's like we don't have to worry about money no more, which is good. One last thing.
Yeah.
It's just like Gump is a millionaire and he's just an idiot. I think
I don't think I've ever watched that movie straight through.
It is.
I think I've seen the entire movie.
I've heard people hate it, but I love it that it's just, and they're like, somebody says, this is not realistic at all. Like they hang up on certain things too. It's like, how did he run for so long? So he's just running and never sleeps? And he just like shits himself? How does that work? I'm like, no, they explain it in the movie. He sleeps when he's tired and he eats when he's hungry, goes to the bathroom. When I had to go, I went. And they're like, anyways, this movie's unbelievable. I'm like, well, yes, it should be. It's a story. Not all movies are like, do you think there's an actual Spider-Man swinging around New York? That's not real, by the way.
What?
They're not Spider-Men? I thought I could be one.
But I saw that movie. There's 3 of them.
It was crazy. So you just let every spider bite you? I'm like, yeah, it's going to happen one day.
Only when I'm near the nuclear power plant. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moving on. Ryan Fluff Bruce has unveiled a signature Fishman Fluence custom pickup. That was a mouthful, but
yes,
I want to try it.
I
want to try it.
I really like Riff's beards and gear. I've watched that for a long time. And
this guy knows how to sound good. The Fishman Fluences have been just everyone that plays it. I'm like, that sounds ridiculous. I want one. Yeah.
My one criticism about it is Ryan Fluff Bruce, his riffs, that channel, a lot of his guitars all sound the same. All his distortions and stuff like that, they sound good, but they all sound the same. I'm like, what are you doing? Like how much post processing are you doing? So it makes me think
it's half of it's his signal chain and his gating and compression, right? But yeah.
And then he always like shows his clean tone, which I'm like, that is not clean. It sounds actually farty. And how do you get crunch tones that sound farty? So as much as I like criticize, I'm like, a lot of his tones all sound alike. And I'm like, how can he make like a Fender with a Invader sound like a Gibson Standard with like burst buckers? I'm like, that all sounds the same. Is it because he's using so much gain? I don't know.
Part of it's just how hot the Invader is, but yeah.
But it still sounds like his Gibsons, which have a lower, more PAF sound. And then also he's playing like, here's my Mesa, here's my 5150, here's my JCM, Marshall, here's my I'm like, they all sound exactly the same.
Look, Ryan, let's just be honest with our audience for a minute. All metal sounds exactly the same, and we could all do it if we just tried.
And the thing is, it all sounds great.
I can think of at least 3 people I know that listen to our show that are just like twitching in their seats when I said something like that.
And if they know that I play punk, it's like, punk sounds the same. And Avril Lavigne sounds like Blink.
I am the most praise and worship guitar player that ever praised and worshipped. So like, yeah,
just dumb it down. Like, Good Charlotte's just as punk as Green Day or whatever. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, the thing is, I like both those bands.
You know what?
But
Good Charlotte slapped, man.
I did listen to Young and the Hopeless the other day. I'm oh my God, this is great.
Though, in fairness,
see it on TV.
In fairness, they're way more Fall Out Boy than they are Green Day. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm like, listen to it, I'm like, this holds up. That's how like all these bands are like, records that they put out are so old.
Question for you. Since you grew up in San Diego of that era, does your whole like town just play like 3 degrees of separation from like Blink-182?
Yeah, and everybody's like, and I think Tom's the only one that still lives in San Diego, or that I think he was the only one that's like from San Diego. I think Mark was L.A.
We have that with Fall Out Boy up here.
And then, Fall Out Boy. Do you have
Chicago
Alkaline
suburbs.
Trio?
Yeah. Huh?
What about Alkaline Trio?
So Alkaline Trio was more like the people who actually like pop punk, not like
Mhm.
oh, I like pop music people.
Oh no, but yeah, Fall Out Boy is gigantic. They're huge.
They're
huge
so
band.
big, but like everyone just played the yeah, I know somebody that's cousins with the guy from Fall Out Boy. Like that's like every single person in the Chicago suburbs of like my
Yeah.
age group.
And it was always like you hear somebody's telling a story, and I'm like, I don't think that is real at all. I don't believe you, but I'm gonna let you finish. Like you're just
that
in your
didn't
head.
happen.
Like Blink, their self-titled one, their album, they recorded in a house. Like they rented out a house in San Diego, and they just like for months because they were just trying to write and record an album. Instead of going into a studio with ideas, they had no ideas, and it ended up taking like a year and a half to do this fucking thing.
I believe that.
But it took months, and then like the family's like, "We want to move back into our house, please." But like somebody I knew at a show was talking about, I don't think they were even a friend. I don't remember. I can't put a face to it. Not that I'm like holding back their name or anything. I'd shout them out if I could. You're a bullshitter. They would say like, yeah, there was a time where we were hanging out at the house that they were recording. We were like 14 years old, and then they were like smoking weed, smoking us out. And there was like a point where Mark and Tom were just giving us money. And I'm like giving it, like whoever had more hundreds would just give. I'm like, that sounds like, oh yeah, my dad stopped an asteroid and then pulled a cruise liner back to shore and tied her up. Like it sounds like you just made all that up. Like they're just talking.
I believe they got smoked out part of it.
I don't like
and everything else is imagined from there on out.
No, I don't think any of that, because they're adults.
I didn't say they got that Blink smoked them out. I just believe that they just got high and then they imagined the rest of the story.
They were high playing GameCube.
They were watching Speed 2 and they thought that was Blink 182.
Yeah, they're just in their minds. They made that up. Or this guy's just a habitual liar. Just like you're just making shit up. But yeah, no, there's a lot of that for Blink in San Diego.
Nice.
Anyways. Yeah, no, I like Fluff Bruce's stuff.
There's something new coming out that I could see you being into. That Ernie Ball has launched a new limited edition short scale Stingray with 5 new finishes. Are you a short scale based guy, or you gotta
no, I play full scale. I've played the smaller ones, and it looks like I have like a toy in my hand. And
are the bodies on them smaller too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they're pretty cool. And if you're a short scale guy, I know there's a lot of guitarists who like, because I
short scale. Yeah.
Love short scale. And I'm like, for me, I'm like, it just I like the full length of it. And like same thing. I'm like, all right, I think we talked about on the pre-episode. I'm like, I don't like when the strings get too floppy and shit everywhere, and like definitely the
short scale is just flop all day anyway.
And you're like, I like a lot of tension on my strings, and yeah, I could see myself not liking that. And then short scale, like I don't have a problem, even though I got really little hands, little fingers. I don't have a problem playing, a full scale bass because that's what I learned on when I was like 14, and yeah. I think they're cool. I like the colors. I am not a bad thing to say about Ernie Ball basses. I want one. Do I need one? Absolutely not. Do I want one? Absolutely yes.
I associate Stingrays with 2 things. For whatever reason, I associate them with Flea, even though he was not really ever that much of a Stingray guy.
He had a good run for sure. Yeah.
But I associate them with punk.
Yeah.
Very heavily with punk. I'm trying
definitely
to, like, did Fat Mike play one?
MXPX.
Yeah.
MXPX. Yeah, and then they're like a lot of the Fat Records bands, so like Lagwagon. And it's weird because you barely hear, like, to me, like a Stingray sound is that humbucker and everything. Just I rarely hear that on punk records because most people record with like a P bass or a jazz bass, and then they'll play out. Like I think a lot of the earlier MXPX stuff, he was recording with a P bass, but he would play out with the Stingray.
I mean, like how everyone records with a Les Paul, and then they bring whatever they do live.
Yeah, and then it's like Blink-182. He never recorded with his Strats. because it's like, this is like a terrible guitar for the studio. We're gonna use like,
Well, it came out after Enema of the State,
but even
and
on
then he did
Takeoff-
he did self-titled. He was already on the Gibson.
and then for most of the
that he was playing, yeah.
he mainly used like Les Pauls, so like standards or like juniors and tellies for Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, and even the self-titled. And then he would use an ES333, but not his signature one yet. And so it's like, what you use in the studio versus what you use live. But you can listen to like Enema of the State. I think half that record was recorded with a Stingray, and half of it was recorded with a P bass. And you can hear this distinct Stingray sound on certain songs. And I definitely think of like, it's a punk sound, which I'm sure they never planned on that. I think because it just has such a bite to it. It can have a lot of low end, but also that high end is really there. Because if you think about like a bridge pickup for your guitar, but in a bass, totally works. And so I don't have any guitars with a bridge humbucker or any basses. And so I'm like, maybe I should get one.
Have you ever thought of like a Fender Dimension?
Yeah, or even like the Fender Deluxe P basses that they either had a jazz bass pickup in the bridge, or some of them had a humbucker too. So P bass and a humbucker. I'm like, all right, I like that. But I know the Dimensions that were out maybe like, was it 2014 or something like that? It was a little while ago. They didn't stick around too long. I don't think they caught on very, very well.
It's so hard especially in Fender basses, like even like the Jaguar bass has a hard time like staying in the lineup.
It's like they have the big two, and they're like
J and P, right, and then a PJ.
Yep. And I think it was an older Guitar Nerds one. When they were like announcing the news for like I think it was the Dimension, but and then like shortly after that, Ernie Ball released their bass. I think the Cutlass bass that was like a P setup.
They made a Cutlass bass too, because the Cutlass is a guitar as well. Like,
I don't remember if that's what it was called, but it was like, it wasn't a Stingray, but it had P, split P kind of pickups. And then they're like, oh, they're really just coming at like, hey, we're coming at P bass now. Fender, if you want to come in our territory with your Dimension, all right, there's room for us. And a lot of people played that. Like that caught on. Like the Ernie Ball version of the P bass.
I mean, because Ernie Ball is such a precision made instrument at the high end. Their stuff is just so well done.
Yeah,
and
especially
is better than Fender's build quality at that price range and what's going on. Because Fender goes more into the Mojo and the master built stuff at a certain point. They don't go up into the absolute precision build kind of stuff that Ernie Ball, Soar, a few of those other brands do. And that's when you want to get into that, you go to those other brands,
Yeah. It's like once you do Ernie Ball, like the Ernie Ball, not like the Sterling or whatever. Like that's when it's like they do the cheaper Sterlings, or they do like the high end good standard Ernie Ball, and then you're like, okay. And
then there's like the Ball Family Reserve models and all that stuff.
That's when you get the crazy finishes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but definitely like Ernie Ball.
Speaking of crazy and insane, Mike Fuller was in the news again this week, being outed on his retirement. I don't think we need to hash out too much of the full tone, everyone hates full tone, yada, yada, yada. There will be plenty of that in Facebook groups for the rest of our lives. So it's important I think a lot of people are being very hyperbolic about a lot of interpreting this. It's clear he's shutting down his California operations. Doesn't appear that full tone itself is actually shutting down. It's just changing. So it's like, I would say this could be something like what Brian Wampler did, where Wampler shut down the Indiana operations and moved into a builder and a distributor that way. And Brian is still very active in the project and designing and things like that. Could be something like that. There's been theorizing of he might just hand build custom orders for a little while and let the market dry up, so all his stuff's worth a lot.
Yeah.
and pull Bill Finnegan where he just makes a clone once in a while. And
Yeah, when he wants to, yeah.
yeah. Or we could see MXR making the OCD Mini, and
That would be. I owned
It
an
fits.
OCD, and it was okay. It was fine. I sold it. I don't regret it. Like it's okay. But if MXR made an OCD Mini, I'm gonna buy it. I do want the King of Tone one that they're doing, the little mini guy. And then they make the Timmy, and I'm like, I want both of those. Do I need either one? No, but I want them.
I mean, the funny part with both of them is you can get a real Timmy or a real Prince of Tone new for cheaper than.
But they're
what the
minis,
are.
Scott. They're minis.
Yeah,
I'm a mini guy. I love collecting them.
So things we've seen happen in this week. Every full tone product sold out everywhere. Yeah. Flippers are jacking prices up.
Well, that is somebody had that take, which I like a lot. I think it's hilarious. Whether you like full tone or dislike the guy or whatever, like the takes on him sometimes can be funny. Like where somebody's like saying, you already can tell. I can't remember what group it was. Like you could tell all the people are going to start just jacking up the prices of their shit, like full tone pedals. You bought that for $100, and then now you're going to try and sell it for $600. It's like, no, I'm holding strong because I know what I got, bro. We all do. 2 weeks ago, you could have sold that for $80. Yeah, I think I sold mine for $80.
But it's also not like I will use the clone example of the clone market blew up over clones at a certain point because you just couldn't get a clone.
Mm-hmm.
This is the opposite. The clone market has already blown up over OCDs because people didn't want to buy a real OCD and admit it. Mm-hmm. So there's tons of fakes already out there. The market's fine if you want that sound. What I found interesting was, there was talks of this is not a profitable company. He had a falling out with Reverb. He had a falling out with Guitar Center.
Yeah.
And so in all likelihood, sales on the OCD on full tone stuff has probably dropped off substantially over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And he's at a point now where he can't do anything. And some people would blame his personality.
Mm-hmm.
I would also just blame nothing new has actually come out.
I was going to say the same thing. Like, I know everybody would want to harp on like the guy himself of like, oh, he's not the best, let alone, some, whatever. He's not just known for one negative experience or one comment or whatever.
Yeah.
Multiple ones. And people are like, well, this guy's a dickhead. And then, the way the, guitar is now, it's like if you wanted to be, you can be super picky about stuff. And then I have a friend who he plays guitar and music and bands and records and stuff like that. He doesn't follow any of this guitar gear stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, he loves his full drive too. He's like, yeah, I've had it for, for 8 years. It sounds like punk.
John Mayer used to play one. And at some point, one will probably show up on John Mayer's board again and the market will go insane.
Yeah.
Because that's the way things are.
And so he's like, he has no idea. I'm like, oh, he has no idea about any of the controversy with that guy. He doesn't care because he's like, this is a guitar pedal, and I turn that on, and I get a distortion sound because the light comes on when I step on that thing.
His identity is not in the brands that are on his pedal board.
Yeah, he just plays.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking too, it's like you could think that like, oh, that's why, he's not getting business. But I also think he wasn't super. Like there's no innovation, nothing new, like you said, in his stuff, which like he did stick to a lot of like old school stuff. It's like, but some of the stuff was like priced out of anybody could try it. Like he did that tube tape echo thing.
He also insisted on everything's made in the USA and didn't adopt foreign building, which is the way like the JHS 3 series and a number of those kind of things can afford to be what they are.
Yeah.
I don't want to call him a bad businessman because he ran a business for 30 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Like he's a good businessman for that reason, but at a certain point, business models need to change or they can't continue to exist.
Yeah, and especially operating out of California. That's got to be expensive.
Well, and also it's a good time to cash in your chips and go.
Yeah.
The property he probably bought for $300,000 is like $2.5 million now. Yeah,
you could sell that and then
he is selling that.
Sell that, and then if you wanted to keep it going, open up a factory. Still, if you want to do U.S. somewhere else, like in different state.
Yeah, and also going to a distributor model, something like what Wampler does,
Yeah.
takes a lot of things off your plate.
Yeah.
You don't get as big of a cut anymore, but you also get to sleep at night.
Yeah.
And get to do other things. So I can see that being more of a, I'm going to call it a retirement plan, because no company gets to just cease to exist. Well, right? Like, closing down a business, there are different ways of doing it. There's a cost to close a business, which most people don't think about, right?
Yeah.
So most businesses, as they ramp down, actually tend to lose money, because if you're trying to end a business well. Your other option is often you sell the business and its assets and someone else takes it on, and there's hiccups in the transition period, right? Realistically, Full Tone could have been bought and is worth money. His IP and everything's worth money. I think an MXR would buy it in a heartbeat, a Dunlop.
Yeah.
One of those kind of brands. I could totally see that happening. And so if he wanted to fully cash out, that's what would be happening right now. And that doesn't seem to be what it is. I think he's going to hold on to the brand and keep making stuff.
Yeah,
just
in whatever fashion or whatever. And then there's still people who want to buy it. And to not say like, oh, to disparage and say, oh, he made only shit. All this stuff sucks. I'm like, but the thing is,
no, he did.
a lot of the stuff that he made, like, you can get elsewhere, not just like clones of it. But I'm like, drive pedals, again, like we spoke about, I don't know if it was Patreon or whatever, but it's like drive pedals have a voice of their own, and you gravitate toward whatever you like. There's so many out there. Same thing with fuzz, and that's a lot of what he did. He made a trem, I think, and then mostly boosts, drives, and fuzzes. Like I said, he did make that tube tape thing.
The Deja Vibe is another one worth mentioning.
Oh, okay, yeah.
One of the few photocell
and then
vibes.
Yeah, and then that was kind of it. I think he had a wah too, but there wasn't too much. It's like a lot of the stuff that you could get somewhere else.
But also for like a 4-man operation, that's a pretty good lineup. I hate to say it like that, but at the same time, like, stuff runs out. Popularity burns out. And like they never scaled back to the point that like supply, they did the dealer distribution thing. So like they built a ton of them, they sat on shelves. Yeah. That was the model they did. They're not doing, the natural comparison right now would be Analog Man and what Mike Pierre is doing, right? Where they're building them to order pretty much everything they do. Yeah. And there's a backlog. Like Mike Pierre can shut down tomorrow and it really won't ruin anybody, but there'll be a ton of people complaining. I've been on this wait list for 3 years and I still didn't get my King of Tone. And how does Mike Pierre is getting about the same age. When does he retire?
Yeah.
This is unprecedented. Like Leo Fender retired by selling the company.
Yeah.
Sort of. Well, he sold Fender when he had medical issues and then did GNL and he did stuff with Music Man and Ernie Ball. Like he kept working, but he sold Fender and Fender kept on. Like he sold the brand and stepped away, right? Gibson's been in multiple hands and has been around since whenever. Martin Guitar has been around since like 1840 something. Yeah. In family hands. So like, yeah.
Well, I think with also some of these brands of like pedal builders and stuff like that, you kind of know the person a little bit more, whether that's good or bad.
Especially when they're small like that. Yeah.
And then even nowadays with, brands that are smaller starting up and they're starting to blow up. Yeah, I can't talk. It's like you, for good or bad, you get to know the people. And sometimes that works really well for the brand, like JHS. People they think like, oh, Josh Scott's my boy because I watch his YouTube channel. He's a personality. He is an influencer. Yeah. And also he has a fucking pedal company. And so most people are like, I like Josh Scott. He's cool. I'm going to buy a Josh Scott thing, a JHS thing.
At the same time, he had to grow out of the controversy that comes up every 6 months too.
Yeah. And he's actually, I think, done really well with that. He kind of addresses it and he kind of moves on. He's kind of almost like, I have a copy and paste response of how I'm going to deal with this. Well, this person throws this at me. Well, I can do that. Like he's a pretty good personality. I don't even really watch his channel that much, but I pop in every once in a while and I'm like, I like what he's doing.
He actually, today, this is Monday we're recording, he did a live stream talking about the Full Tone thing and talking about the significance of full tone in its time and of that era of what he classifies. He's classified different eras of pedal development, and how, full tone is a part of the history books, whether you like it or not, and whether you hate this guy.
Yeah.
And I would not say he really got canceled, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that could have been part of it, but too, I think just there's not a lot of new players that are going to jump to a full tone. They're going to jump to whatever's hot, which a lot of it's going to be a JHS thing. It's going to be something like maybe a super small company like 1981. The guy makes a really cool pedal, a one pedal. That's all he does. Or they're going to oh, fuzz. I can get some cool fuzz from, I don't know, Daredevil pedals. That guy, actually, that's an awesome company too. That's a smaller operation, but he's doing it. I
mean, I'm often talking about how much I love pedal products. That's a one-man operation, 2-man operation, and it went on hold for a while when he was going through his marriage falling apart. So when you're a single person drive company, there's just so many more hiccups that can stall and affect things.
And then, the bad thing about having such a face and a person to your company is if people don't like you, then that's your company that they don't like.
Yeah.
Whereas the positive thing for JHS, for example, is I like that guy. I'm like his company. I'm going to buy that. It's that guy I don't like the cut of his jib. Fuck him. I'm not buying any of his stuff. So I could go, you got little tightrope that you're walking.
Don't get me wrong. I will not critique the products of a company, but I will also say I'll never buy anything from Vertex because I can't stand Mason for many reasons.
Yeah, I remember his whole controversy, which is that's nuts. But also he's, trying to make a YouTube name for himself, social media name for himself.
Yeah, I'm not buying any of it. But
it's fine.
We don't need to sit and talk on air how much I don't like.
Talk about some guy I don't like. Fuck you.
But I mean, there's builders, and I these guys I will not name, but I disagree with them politically or things they post on Facebook and stuff like that. But at the same time, I also have finally got to the point where I can disagree with somebody and still like them. So, I still use their products, and I still like the guy. I know he's a good guy. I just disagree with him on something, and that's okay.
Yeah. And then, even with that too, not to dig into the guy too much, but I'm there's people love the hell out of the full tone pedals and stuff that has come out, and I liked them. I really, really loved my full drive 2, full tone full drive 2. I loved that. It was so awesome. After it was modded by JHS. So it took a mod for that to boost that pedal up to where it was more usable for me. And not to even just a callback, to JHS, but this was before JHS was I even knew who it was, a guy, and obviously he's got a whole company, but where they used to do the mods, and I bought it from JHS.
And let's also be clear, the minute the full tone is closed, JHS will probably have a full drive model.
Yeah, or even an OCD.
Yeah,
if he did that, that'd be you bastard, but also
well, the minute Bill Finnegan finally hangs it up, the JHS clone comes back.
Yeah, and then with all that, I'm sure there are people who can make more. There's the Fuzz Roches has the OC Demon. Or the Demon pedal. I think it was originally called OC Demon, and then he was getting too hot, so it's he just calls it the Demon now, which is that's a little too on the nose there. So he calls it Demon now. I'm all right.
He also has the cat distortion.
Yeah, it just changed one. Yeah, it's you gotta I like some of the pedal clone names because you could do a little wink, nod, nudge of what it's supposed to be, and some of them are so on exactly what that thing is going to be. It's some clever names. I like the Rat's Bane from Wampler. I'm all right, you just or
the Rat Pack.
Yeah, that one actually is. I'm just trying not to mention JHS again, which is funny because I own nothing JHS.
Nothing at all.
I had the Bomb Boost. I like that a lot. I sold it because I was like, oh, I have some redundancy in this. I should have kept it because I liked it a lot, but I ended up getting the Keeley Katana Mini Boost, which is practically the same thing. It does exactly what I needed on there. And then Keeley's a good company too. Yeah. So, well, with these like other companies like say Wampler and Keeley, they're, doing something different. They're innovating. They're even like redoing their old pedals in different ways, but it kind of seemed like Full Tone wasn't.
I mean, we can knock them. I mean, Wampler literally just came out with a Tube Screamer, but yeah, at the same time, it was this version of the Tube Screamer. Here's how I'm going to make it new and different, and here's what I'm going to do weird with it. And
but
eating it up.
He made it a mini, so that's the difference. What I liked, Wampler's thing on the Tumnus originally came out in a mini, and then they came out with a normal size, or your MXR size. But his whole thing was, it's like, oh, you kind of do some other things under the hood, but what most people care about and how this sets it apart is like, it's a mini, Klon mini, and people are like, whoa, you're right, he's right.
On Brian's podcast, he would always say, he's like, great, I can do it. How is it new and different?
Mm-hmm.
How am I doing whatever I'm doing new and different? And that's Brian's whole thing, because a lot of his drives are just drives. They're other classic models that he's made new and different in some way. He made them more better for whatever he wanted, and he's got a great ear, and he's made a great product for that. And also his personality people love, and it really helps the group.
Well, and that's also another guy too that's polarizing. Some people hate him. Some people don't like Ryan Wampler, and then it's like
I've never met someone that actually hates Brian Wampler.
Not hate them, but okay, hate is a strong word. They don't like him. Like they could rub him, rub the wrong way, and it's like it could be because like, hey, he's so old school, and some people want the new, hot, fresh, cool takes. Where he's like, well, he's dorky, he's old, he's
a guy who lives in farmland of Indiana. Like he's only going to be so cool.
Yeah. I just think, he needs to come out with the Pantheon Mini. That was one thing I'm like, come on, just get it. Just do it. It's a blues breaker, which I really love that circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And I have already a Mini in the Snouse, I think is the brand.
Snouse makes a Mini?
They did.
Okay.
And it was limited.
Yeah.
And I got one.
Okay.
And it's great. But it'd be, great to have another one. Why? Because, more is better.
Well, the Duke of Tone might be what you're looking for.
Yeah. But, I love...
It's MXR too, so Kyle will still love and accept you.
Yeah. And get that and the Timmy.
If only Walrus made it.
If they made they have to make a blues breaker.
Who,
they have
Walrus?
tons of drives. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Walrus has been doing some unique stuff lately that I've been liking.
Yeah, that's a cool company. That's always a company that I'm like, okay, they put something out. Don't need it, but I'm like, maybe.
I mean, there's a few companies that like I will look at everything they do regardless of whether I actually need it or not. Chase Bliss, Old Blood Noise Endeavors.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, I want to play everything they come out with, even if it's not for me. I just got to try it. Well, everything Walrus.
Yeah, the Walrus one that like nobody, like all my friends group, nobody cared about except for Kyle and Johnny was the Badwater bass pedal.
Oh yeah,
because like that came out like that's awesome. That's like everything you need. And we're all
it's a better Sans amp. Yeah,
we're like just a echo chamber. That's great. That's great. That's cool. It's cool. And then I sent it like RJ. I'm like, what do you think about that? He's like, okay. It's like it's bass and then I'm sure they put so much into that and then just like bricked it from half court.
Yeah,
they're probably like, well, some people like it. Some bass players like it. I don't know what the time is. How long have we been talking?
Oh, way over.
Way over. Because on mine, I have a timer on when I record in Pro Tools, and so I can see it. So I usually kind of bring it in for a landing, and I'm like, Scott, pull me in.
I hit record 2 hours and 45 minutes ago.
Yeah, there's 2 podcasts in there.
Yeah,
and then some.
Yeah. Patreon content. Get your dollars worth out of this one. Stay tuned. Full Tone's not going away.
Yeah.
Enjoy the speculation boost that happened. Also, know how many OCDs are on the market right now. There's just too many of them. And also,
But that's the best one. It's like people's like, no, I know what I got, bro.
well, the funnier part's going to be like in 6 months when all the speculative buyers start breaking down, because it also, we're not in a seller's market right now. Like, it's a buyer's market right now in used gear. People aren't buying it. We're in a gear glut right now. You're watching Fender have issues. You're watching a bunch of companies have excess supply.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, the guys at Rock and Roll Vintage, I don't know if I said this earlier or not, because I've had this conversation too many times already. I was like, so I was asking him, so what's going on with you guys with Full Tone and whatnot? Like, how are you feeling about it? Like, what news did you get? And he's like, it's great. We've had pedals sitting on our shelves for years, and they're finally sold.
they go to the back.
We finally sold that new stock that's been sitting there for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, that's the Full Tone new old stock.
Yeah.
That's what they got. Yeah, no, I like that. A lot of people thinking that they got the next Kalon on their hands.
They
with
don't.
The OCD. Yeah.
No, there's just too many made. There's like something like he might have made like 3. I think Josh Scott said he thinks they may have made like 300,000 pedals at Full Tone.
Yeah, that's a good amount. That's a lot. That's a good. That is a lot. Yeah.
I think the best selling pedal ever is either like the DS1 or the Metal Zone, right? And that maybe hit 1 million.
Yeah. Okay.
I know that's like 3 times more, but at the same time, that's a lot of Full Tone stuff.
That is a handmade, pedal from California versus like, a Metal Zone, made in Taiwan. There's like, a little bit of difference, but it's like still like that's comparable. A third of that.
Yeah.
Nothing to shake a stick at.
Yeah. So let's just say there's plenty of glut. The market will bounce back. So we'll see.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Also, stay tuned for future episodes of The Effects Loop. And thanks for joining us, everybody. You can find everything we have, our Facebook group, our Instagram. We have merch. Believe it or not, we have merch. Oh, yeah, there's a discount code for merch if you're on one of our higher Patreon tiers. I don't know which one it is, but it's there. Just join the highest one and you'll get it.
Yeah.
And when you can't find it, then you can FaceTime Diaz and ask him where it is. So that's the best part. And he'll go, I don't know. And it will be
2
great.
o'clock in the morning.
It will be great. You can also email us, find our YouTube, find our Patreon, everything at theeffectsloop.com. Also, you can go check out Brian's podcast, The Tone Jerks, at what?
Yeah, we're on whatever you're listening to this on. We're search for us, The Tone Jerks podcast. We're also on YouTube. We have a video podcast over there, and then I do sometimes do some YouTube content like videos over there. It's definitely kind of getting back into the groove of that. So we're on Instagram. We have a Facebook group as well. So yeah, check all that out.
Wow, cool. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great week.
All right. See ya. Bye.
We can talk over this music too if you want. It's great.
Yeah. You're ruining the song.
We are strong. We have to just keep pushing along. We are one. So let's
dictionary. Why is negativity always drawn out? Pictionary, visualize love, energize lives together. We undefeated. A plan to make where there's no gloves needed. When we weed into the mindset of achieving and believing in a community that remains happy. Ever after, the world should be one. Hate annihilated, every heart is one. Love again. So
Don't buy